Sarah. So Deloitte does a lot of stuff. We do business consulting. We work on technology, regulatory programs. I'm a bean counter, right? I'm a tax guy, and we've been in this space a long time. We talk about tax. You really got to boil it down and remember one key thing. Let's go back a couple of thousand years when we're cave people. Okay, I can't say caveman because Sarah's going to put me on the 10 o'clock news. So we're cave people walking around, and cave people are trading clubs for meat. Think about that. This was commerce in its very early stages. People trading clubs for meat. This is what we did. This was a barter transaction. And a few years later, people started standing upright, and we had fiat. And they used currency to more gracefully execute commerce. And we had services, and we had businesses that evolved. And over time, we had more grace, and businesses got more complicated, and we're using fiat. We're designing structures and instruments, and things were getting kind of crazy, but it was a normal evolution. Something happened in the 90s when we got the internet. Big change. Commerce had a huge evolution when we got the internet. And tax people had to stand on their head and spin around a little bit and understand what just happened. Because what we used to understand is how and when and why something got taxed. It all changed with the internet. And you thought about sourcing, you thought about transaction taxes. It was pretty wacky. Things normalized. Okay? Same thing with SaaS, right? You had to stand on your head, you think about what just happened here. And people are still debating SaaS. Is it a license? Is it a sale? What is SaaS? States are still debating this topic. Blockchain is another step in the evolution of commerce from a tax perspective. But what happened is, with blockchain, we're now back to barter transactions, right? We're trading property. Lots and lots of property is being traded, millions of transactions at a time. We're back to cave people, right? That's what's going on. You got to ground yourself out. This is property at its very basic sense. So with the pre-ICO considerations, what are you really thinking about? It's identifying the property, that very first thing. Ground yourself out. You're developing a new company, and a key component is likely going to be some type of property. Define what that is, and it could be different. Sarah mentioned a commodity. It absolutely could be deemed a commodity. It could be investment property. It could be trade or business property. It could be something. The definition is highly relevant for tax as it relates to transaction taxes, indirect, like VAT, GST, sales taxes, etc., where it's sourced. With an ICO, this is a little bit unnatural. People think about a fundraising event as a very tax-efficient transaction. Remember that sales of tokens are largely taxable with very few exceptions. They're going to be taxable transactions. So you got to think about what that means from a federal perspective, from a state perspective. When you institute a SAFT or a SAFE-T, what is the timing of that transaction? It's going to be taxable at some point, but when does that happen? Also, people tend to give tokens as compensation. You talk about token allocations. That's taxable to the recipient. Remember, that's compensatory. If it's an employee, don't forget about withholding tax, payroll withholding taxes. If it's an advisor, you still have to report it and get a valuation. You're talking about something that fluctuates in value and not a lot. Do yourself a favor. Get a valuation so you've got some support as to what that is. You don't get nailed later with the benefit of hindsight. Choose your advisors well. We iterate a lot. There's a lot of attorneys in this conference, and the best thing you can do is build your team early and let us iterate together with counsel and with tax and your business group to make sure that we're iterating through your structure together rather than going too far down one path. The ICO is one event. It's a big event. But remember, there's life after the ICO. You now have a company which is utilizing property, hopefully, in its normal course, right? That's most of what we're doing here. So think about that. Think about a normal business that uses fiat. Now pull out the fiat and institute property. That means you have to reevaluate every little transaction in the ecosystem for every stakeholder, for every persona, and make sure you got it right. Treat it correctly for yourself, the company, and also the people that are either investing in the tokens or using them as business property. You're going to have investors that are say, hey, I own a share of the company. I want a token allocation. Be careful about what that represents. Distributing a token out of a company to an investor, this can be a taxable event to the company. So be careful about any time you send tokens outside of corporate solution or any company solution. This can create a taxable event, so watch out for that. And lots of compliance matters. Remember that that anything on the blockchain, right? It's transparent, it's immutable. You got to do the right thing. So pay attention to compliance. Think about all of the services that are offered by the protocol within the ecosystem. Make sure you have those sort of nailed down and well understood. And you got to keep revisiting things like indirect taxes. Sales tax could be applicable. VAT, a lot of big debates over the applicability of VAT, GST, HST, etc. But life after an ICO is a big deal, and so don't forget about it. You can't have a slide without some legalese on it. Remember, nothing I told you was tax advice. It's just considerations, right? So remember, everything on chain is transparent. Please do the right thing. If you have any tax questions, I'll be here all week.